What is going on, my Masketeers? Welcome back to another episode of The Mask, and today we are here to talk about The Boys Season 4. I'm going to give you my overall opinion / review of this season and how did I find it. This is going to be a roller coaster of a review only because so much happened in the 8 episodes, and I must say, overall, I'm skipping to the end. I loved this season. This season for me was so good for so many reasons. Not to say that it didn't have its issues, but its issues were very minimal in my opinion, and the good far outweighs the bad. With that being said, let's get into this. I'm gonna say that for this season, it was more of a deep dive into a lot of characters and also deconstructing a lot of these characters. Because of that, it was done so masterfully, and everybody I feel is going on a particular journey, but we've been able to go through it for the past 3 seasons, and in the 4th, they now just double down on that. I feel that this season, it was more of a character-driven season. The plot was good. There was a lot of motivating factors involved, but the primary focus of this season was the characters and how they have been dealing with everything that has led up to this point. In season 4, we see Homelander trying to raise his ambitions to take over the government, and that's because he's in a weird space right now. He doesn't exactly know who and what he is, and he has to face his mortality. Interestingly enough, his mortality comes with being a parent and also the fact that he's getting a couple grey hairs, and he doesn't know how to deal with that because he's always looked at himself as a god. That's what he's had to tell himself in order to overcome his trauma of needing the love and affections of people, that people are beneath him and he's a god. And in all actuality, due to his powers, he practically is a god amongst men. With him having a son and with him actually seeing signs of his aging, his mortality is being questioned, and an interesting dynamic is happening between him and his son Ryan, where he doesn't want to be like the parents that raised him. Well, he wasn't even raised by parents, he was raised in the lab, and these people just are here just doing a whole bunch of experimentations on him. So if we can call that parents, then I guess, but for him, he doesn't want Ryan to have that experience. In that same breath, he himself has never been raised by loving people, so he doesn't know how to be that parent. He just knows that he doesn't want to give the same experience to his son. So that's a weird place that he's in and he's trying to navigate. It doesn't help the fact that Vought is trying to push his son as the next thing, the next Homelander in a sense, and that kind of plays with his ego a little bit, which is driving some of his actions. And a very interesting plot development is he ends up recruiting a woman called Sage, and Sage is the smartest person on the planet. It doesn't help that she's a black woman, well, for Homelander's sake, but you know, we need all the queens we can get, even if they are maniacal and just want world domination, just to see if they can actually do it. They will work together to create the perfect plan that would see Homelander not only take control of the US government, but also be seen as a saving hero. It's better than his plan. His plan was just to go nuclear and take everything by force and laser beam a whole bunch of people to everybody bow down. So Sage's idea is definitely much more appealing. Due to that, he needs allies, and he now needs to even situate himself with the VP. The VP in question is none other than Victoria Newman. So she is a potential candidate to run for presidency. The world does not know that she is a soup and that she has the abilities that she has. So Homelander, with the advice of Sage, decides to reach out to her and bring her into the fold to say, look, this is what we are trying to do. We want you to be the face. We want you to run for president, and we want you to legalize soups entering the military. Well, Homelander wants her to go a step beyond that and tell the world that she's a soup, whereas she does not want to do that, and she spent a very long time keeping that secret. We move quickly to her daughter. She infected her daughter with Compound V in the last season because she wanted to keep her safe and for her to be able to protect herself. Let me just say this right now. It did not go according to plan. It did and it didn't. She definitely saved, but she done turned into something crazy. That mouth game, read into that in the right way. That mouth game is wild, and that's just to say the least. Moving on. We then get to the boys themselves, and each one of the boys is going through something in particular, and they're just trying to navigate the emotional maelstrom that is their lives. So let's do a rundown here. We're gonna start with the main man himself, Billy Butcher. Billy Butcher is literally on death's door. Due to him taking so much temporary V in the previous season, he has developed V cancer, if we can even call it that, to the point of where he is slowly dying, and there is a a massive tumor in his brain, inoperable, is done. He is having a crisis of conscience. He is trying his best to get Ryan away from Homelander to honor the last wishes of Bex, his deceased wife. Now, within that, he is having episodes to where he's able to see her, but that is due to the massive tumor in his brain that is causing these hallucinations. So she acts more like his conscious. Whenever he's going to do something that would be very Billy-ish, she is the cricket on his shoulder telling him, please don't do this. I have to admit, he really tries to listen to her voice. He's really trying to do things differently, only because he's done it his way every time and it hasn't worked out how he's wanted it to. So this time around, he wants to do things different and to leave this world a better place by making the right choices. Let's just say it don't go too well for him in the long run, and in the end he ends up doing what Billy does best. But the one thing which I will say is I feel he was justified just due to the fact of the circumstances that surrounded him when he made the decision that he made. Not to say that it was the right decision, but with everything that was going on, I can understand how he came to that decision. So that was a really interesting thing. Next up, we gotta talk about Huey. Huey has been going through a very big emotional change, but at the same time he's been suppressing a lot of his damage. So his dad ends up getting a heart attack. If that wasn't bad enough, his estranged mom that abandoned them as kids turns up and she has full legal rights concerning the dad. So even if it came to a point of where he needs to be put on a ventilator or they need to decide if they're going to keep him alive, it's her choice, not Huey's. And again, that is another thing that Huey has to deal with, the fact of he could potentially lose his dad, but now that his estranged mom is back in the picture and she has full legal rights over the dad, they go through a long and emotional journey of trying to heal. We do understand why she did what she did, and she's finally able to explain to Huey why she left. Again, you might not agree with her choice, but you can understand the reason why she made her choice, and it was very believable. And again, I like the fact of Huey being able to even understand, because as a child, again, we don't understand the things that happen to us. It's only when we get older and we really have experienced more life and we have more depth, we now can see from somebody else's point of view, so long as you're open-minded and empathetic. If not, you're just going to be a total narcissist and say, I don't really care about your reasons, it's all about me. So there's that. Then we move on to Starlight. Starlight is going through a whole existential crisis right now, or should I say existential crisis right now, and that's basically her trying to figure out if she should be what people want her to be, in the sense of the world needs a hero, the world wants Starlight, but she just wants to be Annie because there's so much baggage that has come with being Starlight. Some good, but most of it has been bad and too much death has happened. So for her, she doesn't want to be Starlight. She just wants to do the good work as Annie. Unfortunately, you see that people will always gravitate towards the whole notion of an idol, and her having superpowers, again, it is natural for them to look at her to say, Starlight, lead us, Starlight, lead us. So we see her journey and her navigating that. She also has a lot of personal things that she's also battling with that plays a part in her quote-unquote identity crisis, I can call it, which, funny enough, an event happens within the show itself where she ends up having an abortion, and this is something that her and Huey discussed beforehand, so it wasn't a case of where it was kept secret from him. They discussed it and they agreed, but it gets outed, and that's used for a political campaign to smear her and to tarnish her name. And again, that just adds another layer of where even privacy and the darkest moments of her life will always have to be highlighted. So that was very interesting. And they also bring a character back from her past called Firecracker, and Firecracker is literally what you think of when you think of Donald Trump supporter that just uses people's emotions and they twist words just to get their point across and their message, which is a very interesting dynamic. And even why she hates Annie, again, it's understandable, but at the same time, it's not justifiable for what you're now doing in the long run. Then we have Mother's Milk. Mother's Milk is going to be a quick situation. That man's tired. Give this man a break. Mother's Milk right now, he's looking like semi-skim milk. He might even be 1% because this man has been ran into the ground. He's just trying to meditate, get his daughter back, maybe get back with his wife, but this job is finishing him. You can understand why Butcher is the way he is, because this job is not for somebody that's got conscience. I can tell you that much. You gotta make a whole lot of hard choices, and these hard choices will always come back to bite you. Mother's milk, done dusted. Frenchie, super quick. Frenchie's still a druggie. That's it. Frenchie's still a druggie, and his past is haunting him. He wants to pay for his sins, and he doesn't really know how to pay for his sins. So he does what he always does. Drugs and more drugs. And there's also a little bit of a romance with a character that's very short-lived, because you find out he's connected to Frenchie's past yet again, which leads to Frenchie deciding to turn himself in because he wants to atone for his sins. And that's really Frenchie done in a nutshell. Moving on to Kimiko. Kimiko, same bag really and truly. She's trying to learn how to talk, but you know, she's still struggling with that. Her therapist says that it might be down to a whole bunch of unresolved trauma, which it is, and Kimiko is not in a place to actually address it. So she's trying to go through her little situation as well. Her past also comes up in a new form, where you find a little bit about what she did when she was with the Sons, that organization that essentially kidnapped her and her brother. You find that she was out here doing underground cage fights. I can't even call it cage fights. It was more just like fighting in a circle of grown men and just beating up little girls, but it is what it is. So that part is really and truly doing what it was doing for Kimiko's storyline. That is it in general about the season, and with the people from the boys' side. We're gonna move on to the opposition. It's gonna be a quick rattle through. Homelander, I would say this was probably one of the best seasons in terms of more of his deconstruction and just peeling back the layers of his insanity. I thought it was really well done. You can see him losing himself more and more, and it's done in such a way to where if he goes full on nuclear and dictator, it's so understandable, because they've done so much building and so much emphasis on his mental damage and scarring, to where you may not agree with him, you might have some sympathy for him. It's very understandable how he became what he became. He never really had a chance. When you stop and really assess his entire situation, he was always going to be messed up because of what they did to him. So it was quite well done. A-Train, another character who's having to have a deep dive and ask himself the question, who is he really? And A-Train is the only person in that who can be saved. He's not too far gone. While the rest are just out there in the wild, A-Train has a sliver of hope, and he does enough in this season to somewhat redeem himself. We're going to move on to the Deep. The Deep is on absolute madness. He's got an inferiority complex, which is off the scales. It doesn't help the fact that he be sexing up marine animals. Let's stop it. He got a whole octopus girlfriend. What is going on? It's wild out here. Wild. Nobody can justify the Deep's disgusting obsession with sexing up marine animals. I get that you can talk to them and you got gills, but you are 99% human. What is going on with all this bestiality, all this aquamarine love? Is wild. This ain't even like he's sexing up a mermaid or something. Even then, that's still questionable. But at least you got the top off of a woman and the bottom off of a fish, so I can kind of see where you guys can get together. I don't know how you can get together, but then again, he is sexing up an octopus, so he found a way, so he can find a way again. He is finally getting a bit of power. It hurt me that he got with Sage, but to be fair, that was all part of Sage's plan, and she can only get with him when she does a lobotomy on herself. Quick side note, we find out that Sage's brain can regenerate no matter what damage it is. You can kill her body, but if you ever damage her brain, her head, it will regenerate. She can't stop that. So she will lobotomize herself periodically just so that she can stop thinking and stop being smart. So as her brain's regenerating, she is stupid or a normal person. It's either or. You can either get her where she is extremely low IQ and she's an idiot, or she's just a normal person for a few hours. Then her brain will regenerate and she'll be back to her normal overthinking super genius self. During those moments when she has less intelligence, she gets with the Deep, and again, she's able to use that to manipulate him, also to give him some confidence. How that turns out, like always, the Deep has to go deep, and he just lost the plot, which ties into the next character, Black Noir. Black Noir number 2 is a very funny character because he is nothing like number 1, who was a silent mute. This guy, he has been hired to be the replacement. He's an actor at best, and because of that, he's constantly looking for direction, and he's always breaking character because Noir does not talk. This guy, whenever something goes wrong, he automatically breaks character and starts talking because he needs to understand the motivations behind the actions that they're asking him to do, which I thought was really funny, and he adds some great great levity and lightheartedness to a situation. It's believable due to the fact of the situation in question, which I really like. Towards the end of the season, yeah, he goes overboard due to the fact of being friends with the Deep. And that's really it overall when it comes to the characters that were memorable. When it comes to the ideas that they put into this show, absolutely amazing. The one thing which I really liked about this show is they're always able to use great satire, especially to look at particular world events, companies, organizations, and ideas, and they easily flow into the show. One of the things which has been a big thing was taking world events like the whole Donald Trump being president. They've woven that into the narrative of The Boys, and they've taken enough to where if you're clued up, you can see the similarities but how dangerous such rhetoric is, and you see it play out. So you just have to ask yourself, is this really fiction, or are they just showing you this is what's going on? One interesting thing and funny thing which I really liked, they showed the whole Vought Studios aspect, which was a clear dig at Disney and DC, especially when it comes down to whole age reveals, where Marvel will show you all of their films planned up for phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and before you'd probably see like 5-6 films like in the space of maybe like 3 years. But now if you go to whole age, you find there's like 25 films for the next 5 years and 18 TV shows. Just ridiculous. They did the same thing within their universe to where they were showing what Vought TV plans to bring out when it came down to the movies, the TV shows, and it was just ridiculous because they went up to as far as like 2030 of just movies and TV shows, and you're just thinking to yourself, this is wild. But it's true. We've gotten to the point where, again, you look here and you say you see this in real life, which I found hilarious. Overall, like I said, I really liked this season. I thought this season was a deep dive into characters, a deconstruction on characters. A lot of things that happened in this season was so good, especially in where it places for the season final, or should I say the series final, because I'm happy that the 5th season will be the final season due to the fact of they ended season 4 on an all-time high. Season 5 will be epic, and it's good to end on a good note. Don't drag out a story just because it's doing well. Tell the story you want to tell, regardless of how the viewers are perceiving it. If they're loving it, then that's only more reason to finish the story strong, rather than keeping a story going just because it's loved by the fans, but you don't have anything else to tell. With that being said, I will give The Boys season 4, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I really liked the setup, what they did. I like the fact that Gen V storyline played into season 4, and if you don't know what I mean by that, there is something called the V virus, which was created in the Gen V show to affect and kill anybody that has compound V within their system. That plot point made its way to this season, and I believe Gen V season 2 should create and carry certain plot points from The Boys season 4 into it, and that then will also shape the final season of The Boys, which is a masterstroke. That way you can create a whole new show, but at the same time still lay the groundwork for certain things that's going to happen in The Boys. And it's a good spin-off as well. Again, everything's been balanced quite well, which I like. I can't wait to see how season 5 ends. I don't know how long we're gonna have to wait for it. I'm all in. I am all in. So guys, that was my thoughts and my review of the season. There was so much to cover, and so I know I missed out a lot of things, but I just wanted to give you guys like an overview and not spoil it too much because I want you guys to go watch it for yourself. With that being the case, please sound off in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions. What did you think of the show? If you watched it, if not, are you going to? And like always, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you at the next masquerade. Peace.